The Oracle Network.
Hello and welcome to a special mini-sode of Ye Olde Crime, the show where Maddie and I discuss the funny, strange, and obscure crimes of yesteryear every Wednesday. This special bi-weekly segment is called Can You Crack the Cramp-Word, which is slang for a difficult or obscure term, which I thought was very fitting. And joining me today not only is Madison, who is stereotypically not on this, it's because, I don't know. I don't want her to be on it, I guess.
I don't really know either, actually.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
Maybe I should bring you on.
Yeah, if you want, I'm down. But also, you do you if you want. Just do these two.
Figured I'd share this time, just because we do have very special guests from across the pond, who are John, Claire, and Gareth from the Everyone Dies in Sunderland podcast.
Yay.
Good evening.
Hello. Slightly special guests.
So before we begin, I would like to give each of them the opportunity to tell us a little more about themselves and the podcast before Maddie asks them some probing questions. So whoever would like to start, go ahead.
I think John should go first as our ringleader.
Yeah.
Cowards. So Everyone Dies in Sunderland is a podcast about growing up terrified in the 80s and 90s. So I kind of felt that kind of all the 80s kind of got narrowed down into 2 or 3 things. So if you see a compilation of here's a package showing you what the 80s were like. In our case, it's kind of like Charles and Diana got married, which was lovely. Then there was the miners' strike, which was a bit of a shame. But don't worry, here's a man in red braces dancing while swigging from a bottle of champagne. That means economic boom. And Michael Fish comes out and says, don't worry, there won't be a hurricane. And there was a hurricane. And that's the 80s. Kind of the same with, the 90s, the same. It's here's Blur and Oasis releasing a single on the same day. And then Tony Blair's Prime Minister, Diana died, which was a shame. And I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. And that's the 90s. But that's kind of not how I remember it. I remember being alarmed at all the terrible things that were always happening. And kind of we say in our show description, the old days, children played out in the street, everyone left their doors open, children got murdered, everyone got burgled. And it's kind of there's a temptation if you spend too much time on the internet to think, everything's awful now. But I just remember it being so much worse growing up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And in practical terms, we came about because me and Gareth used to do radio shows together and then ended up working together about 10 years later, which we took as a sign we should join a podcast and set up a podcast together.
And for me, I got press ganged into it, so I had very little choice other than to support John as my friend and his wild ambitions to relive the heady days of student radio. Essentially, I say ringleader. What I fundamentally mean is captor. So
fitting.
We've said before, Claire is the Caitlin Olsen we brought into the gang, by which we mean she wasn't in the pilot.
Rude.
And she looks like a bird.
She does look
I am not a bird. I do Charlie work for you guys. That's who I am.
And we've all established that I'm Danny DeVito, so there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, originally we had this idea that there was a weird Mormon girl who used to wander around our office alarming people. I think she worked there. And she would say, one day in a meeting, someone said, "What do you think, Alex?" And she said, "I think we should bring back the death penalty." And she worked in accounts. But that didn't work out. And thank God it didn't, because as everyone who's read our reviews will know, Claire is by far the most popular thing about the show. The reviews are all like, this has a good theme song and I like Claire.
I'm the only reason that people listen to you two rambling on about cricket and Doctor Who.
Well, would you like to start the interview questions, Maddie?
Yeah. So, John, what inspired you to create the show?
I think it was just that. Really? I mean, I think the point kind of always say is that in the early 90s, there were these two murders where I live in County Durham. And one of them is the still unsolved murder of a delivery driver on Christmas Eve, which involved a fake Chinese food order being placed from call box at the literally end of my road. And there's another one where a man built a house in an area not zoned for housing by claiming it was a nuclear bunker. And he went on a televised shooting spree and somehow ended up a local hero. And it's kind of the point that, people think, like we were saying, like, oh, it's everything's terrible nowadays. Like, these things were literally like happening just down the road from me when I was growing up, playing on my Mega Drive. And, people don't remember them. And it's kind of like there are so much crazy things that people just have completely decided to forget as a society. Like, I'm just finishing editing the first of our first ever 3-parter, which, as we've been saying, we called it Britain Goes Berserk. In March 1988, there was like a 10-day period in 1988 in March when there was, the SAS, it's like our special forces, killed some people in the street, which led to a gunfight at a funeral, which in turn led to a public lynching. And, it's fairly memorable. And I remember it happening and being scared witless by it as a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
But like no one ever remembers it. You talk to like people like, oh, do you remember the Milltown Cemetery Massacre? Do you remember the Death on the Rock? And people are like, I've literally no idea what you're talking about.
Can I applaud, John, your immediate rubbing up the right way of our international audience by calling it a call box rather than a telephone box, and then take that straight away from you by calling it a Mega Drive rather than a Genesis.
Oh, well, fair enough. In our first ever show, I mentioned the Metro Centre, and you were like, what if someone in America listens? They won't know what the Metro Centre is. And then we had this slight dialogue about you and me going like, I think they can understand it more. But It's glad that you've come full circle on that one, kind of picking me up on what format I was using to play Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which is a slightly more problematic game than it was at the
time. That's fair. All right, so Claire, how did the three of you meet?
So I actually have never properly met Gareth in the real human flesh, which is probably a benefit for him because he hasn't had to deal with my outrageous arm-wielding and slightly Italian gesticulation.
And I own 2 dogs that I'd like to stay alive as well.
I'm not a dog murderer! I have a bad reputation among the podcasting community for murdering animals, and I literally have never murdered anything yet.
Right, yes. You just pick them up off the road, right? Yeah. They're already dead.
Roadkill, spot on, but not murderous. I mean, I probably would commit murder if I was pushed far enough. Anyway, so yeah.
I hope you know, I think we will have to clarify the roadkill thing for our listeners.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know. We don't do that here as often.
Oh, so roadkill. So yeah, in the UK, if you run over something that is edible, you can't pick it up and eat it, but anyone else passing by can, because otherwise it's classed as I think it's basically classed as murderous rage. So yes, if you find anything dead on the road, you can pick it up, eat it, take it home, butcher it, do what you need to do. Sometimes you get some really interesting things. So sometimes I've had deer, because, people hit deer occasionally.
People eat venison,
Small birds, rabbit, pick it up, take it home, freeze it, butcher it, sorted.
I feel like you're going slightly off topic here, Claire.
Just a little bit.
Roadkill friendship,
Yeah.
It's all the same.
So I've actually only met John. And I met John through his beautiful wife, Susie, concert premier Ellie Kemper impersonator. And she was on my roller derby league. We used to play roller derby together back before, 4 times before the COVID thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
She was part of the league, and John somehow, I think we got talking about murder one night on a night out.
Possibly, yeah, that was how it was. I mean, I've got a note of it somewhere. It's not even murder, it's much worse than that. So yeah, because I was kind of like, I really want to start this podcast, but it can't just be me and Gareth because the world doesn't need just 2 fat old blokes talking about food. Literally what podcasting does not need. And it's like, you had that night out a few months ago with Claire, and you started talking about sustainable sex aids made out of recyclable material. Like, a lot of us found that quite funny. Like, you should try Claire. She's like a human non sequitur. It's like, yeah, okay, like, why not?
So that's how I was
I
selected.
texted Claire on my birthday out of the blue to say, would you like to start a podcast? Like, right, it's my birthday. I'm getting old. We're doing it now. And,
I decided.
So I literally, for the entire time, I know it's unprecedented times, as we've sort of got out of the habit of saying, but like, I haven't been in the same room as Claire for the entire COVID period. Literally, the last time we were in a room together was March 2020.
Although I went out for a meal with your missus on Tuesday.
Yeah, so I haven't been in a room with Claire since March 2020, and Claire and Gareth have, to my knowledge, never been in a room together. It's crazy that we have now. We've started a small media organisation together.
I mean, small. We can't even get a HelloFresh sponsorship, so it's very small.
Only a matter of time.
We're in the same boat.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. All right. I have a feeling your co-hosts are going to love this question. Gareth, why did you choose to move to Scotland?
I mean, from everything we've previously discussed, I think
it's not safe there.
Desperately, because as has been alluded to, I worked in the same office as John for a while. We still work for the same organisation. And he kept saying to me, do you want to do this podcast? And I kept coming up with excuses. And then I just thought the best thing to do is to move 350 miles away. And then maybe he'll stop. Did he stop? No. But I admire his tenacity. So I acquiesced. And I said, yes, okay, I will do this podcast. Other than that, the beautiful scenery, the fact that we walk 10 yards out of our door and there's a beach for the dogs to run on, and we drive 6 minutes down the road and there's a woodland for them to run in, and just essentially just to get away from people in general.
That's fair.
There was a thing that we were discussing, or we were thinking about, and I was looking into the last time a murder happened on the Isle of Skye, which I guess for our American listeners is a bit like Long Island, but with less people and more sheep. I don't know. I've never been to Long Island. So
well, there's been a lot of murders in Long Island, so unless it's the same.
Unless the sheep are committing all the murders, I think it's
well,
different.
The wolves in sheep's clothing.
Good, yeah, nice.
Right?
From mainland Florida. I'm trying to think of islands. It's kind of like
just trying to think of islands in general.
Vancouver Island, mainly. I know that's a different North American country. No, they had all the murderers in the 90s, so no, you don't want to go to Vancouver.
But nevertheless,
the furthest key from the mainland Florida, that's where you are.
There we go. And the last murder that happened here was in 2015, and it was a woman who killed her husband in an argument over a packet of cigarettes. Wow. So I feel pretty safe here. The amount of times that we've gone to the pub.
Your wife doesn't smoke.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I remain unmurdered, so that's good.
2 for 2.
Yeah. And the amount of times we've come back, left the keys literally in our back door, and then just gone to bed and woken up the next morning and gone, opened the door, and then, oh, we've left the keys in the door for the 50th time. People, if you're listening, I'm not going to give out my address, so don't bother trying to find me.
Well, they know you're now on an island.
Yeah.
And they know the name.
Yeah.
And they know you're not the sheep. So you've really narrowed it down, I got to tell you.
There's like 10,000 houses on this island. It's fine.
There you go.
So what Gareth isn't saying is that both him and me really, really, really do not want to go to our employer's corporate away day on November the 1st. And Gareth has come up with a brilliant way of getting out of it that I somehow have failed to do so far.
That and it's legitimately my wedding anniversary, and so I'm not going to drive 8 hours to attend that.
Do you know what I'm doing on my wedding anniversary?
What are you doing, John?
We're doing Everyone Dies with Sunderland.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
We can cancel that, it's fine. Nothing is more important than your happiness, John.
It's true.
Yep.
All right, so John, we know from chatting with you all before that you're a bit of a history buff. What's one era in history that you can't get enough of?
Oh, that's a great question. The thing I tend to be, I think previously, I don't know if it's ever come up in the show we did together before, my microphone stand is broken, so I have to prop it up with the weightiest book I can find. So tonight we've gone with, it's Richard Nixon, The Arrogance of Power, which is sort of the back end of the level of history that I tend to go for. But for some reason, there's the period 1964 to 1970 when Harold Wilson was Prime Minister in the UK. And he had very, very strong cabinet of kind of iconic figures from sort of mid 20th century British history. And, you know, they've all written books or had books written about them. So I've basically read that period of history, and particularly narrative history, so many times. Like, I've read that now from the perspective of Harold Wilson, Roy Jenkins, Dennis Healy, Tony Benn, Barbara Castle, all. And I still can't get enough of the story where there was a run on the pound that was happening. And the only thing, George Brown as well, the only thing they could think of to stop it happening was to declare a spontaneous public holiday in the middle of the night to stop the banks opening the next morning.
That works.
It's one of the weird ways about how our no constitution, technically an absolute monarch who just doesn't really bother getting involved in that kind of thing. You have to get these people called the Privy Council together, who are kind of like the Queen's advisors, but they only have a very set formal, like a rubber stamping role. So they basically, like, the government will do stuff, and then like some government figures who are basically the government got to go and see the Queen and go, this is what we're doing, and they're the Privy Council. It's called Privy, as we're going old-fashioned language, because like the old-fashioned word for toilet, because if you go back to ancient kings, like these people were allowed to chat to the king while he was having a poo. That's literally how our constitution works.
I remember reading about that and being like, wow, that's cool. And by cool, I mean gross.
So they have to get a certain amount of cabinet members together in the middle of the night, and they had to get the Queen out of bed, like at 4 a.m, for the Queen to say, yeah, it's fine to have a public holiday. So they had to literally get the Queen out of bed. They had to get like 10 cabinet ministers, go over to Buckingham Palace in the middle of the night, get the Queen out of bed in her nightie, just to go, we need a bank holiday to stop the banks failing tomorrow morning. Can we have that, please, Your Majesty? One of the members of the cabinet, the Deputy Prime Minister, in fact, was a guy called George Brown, who's very colourful. I'd love to do a show on him. I think can we do a massive side about George Brown? There's an apocryphal story about George Brown, which is the thing that people know him for best, which is probably not true, but it's kind of something that would happen. So he was Foreign Secretary as well, so Secretary of State. So he was apparently in South America once, and he was, it's a lovely bit in my book about him. His womanizing was tolerated because people thought it was funny, but his drinking was another matter. So there's a story about him going to some sort of fancy dinner in an embassy in South America on official business, and going up to someone wearing a long purple dress and going, "Madam, may I have the next dance?" And the person replying, "No, Mr. Brown, for 3 reasons. First of all, 1, you're drunk. 2, this is not the waltz. This is the national anthem of Peru. And thirdly, I am the Archbishop of Lima."
Whoops.
Anyway, so he basically, his vibe for this period is he's a brilliant minister when he's sober, which is never. So his basic thing is to get drunk and have a tantrum and resign from government. And so this occasion they couldn't find him, and like Wilson was like, "Well, we should have Deputy Prime Minister there, but he's probably just drunk somewhere, so we can't sit around waiting for him. We'll have to go to the palace." And basically, Brown was so affronted that he quit the next day. And there's apparently there are like the 2 sides of the cabinet have this different perspective of what their dialogue was. And there's a bit like Brown is like, "Well, I wasn't drunk actually on this occasion." So that's basically my favourite period of history. But as I think we've discussed previously, like I could read Robert Caro's books about Lyndon B. Johnson all day, every day, and mostly do. So can you please get a move on with the one that comes after the first 100 days of his administration? We're not getting any younger. We're all quite worried. We've said before, it's the George R.R. Martin of politics nerds. Please don't die before you finish. Get a move on.
And for those people keeping score at home, John's mic is propped up on a copy of a biography of Richard Nixon. My work laptop is propped up on a copy of Superman 78. So that was the difference between our styles.
But like, so George Brown, there's a lovely bit in there. If I wasn't using the mic, I'd use it as well because like I'm sort of paying Nixon a bit of a compliment here, but quite similar in temperament to George Brown in the latter days of his period, which he's self-medicating on a variety of things quite a lot. And since we survived, it's quite fun to watch. But there's several moments when he orders a nuclear strike because he's drunk in the middle of the night. And like there's a quote from Kissinger saying things like, "I think that the President of the United States deserves the opportunity to sober up and reconsider this."
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Claire.
Yes.
When not working on the podcast, you work with a variety of animals. Since you weren't allowed to have indoor dogs growing up, what inspired you to pursue this as a profession? You like how democratic that was?
Yeah, it was. It was very democratic. So I had quite an unconventional upbringing. So anyone, if you haven't listened to Everyone Dies in Sunderland, you should, because you'll find out about growing up in the countryside. So my family are from blood sports background, so we do hunting, fishing, shooting, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I was always around animals and fascinated by them. So I'm not a serial killer, but I did do pre-serial killer things. So when I was little...
You've omitted the fact that your family are from a blood sports background, and the hunting, the fishing, and the shooting are actually referring to other people rather than animals.
Yes. So yeah.
That's the story they tell in the Dale, certainly.
Yeah, it is. I wasn't a murderer. She was never caught. That's how I got away with it. Yeah, so I did things like taxidermy. I was fascinated by, like, when I was at secondary school, I was fascinated by biology. So, like, whenever we were given, like, a pig's lung or a cow's heart to dissect, I was fascinated by things like that. And I was like, okay, animals. And because we were into shooting, we had dogs that worked outside. They weren't allowed to live inside, but they were allowed to be outside. So I was involved in the training of them. So then I ended up going to university and studied for animal behaviour. And then I ended up in the job that I'm in today. But yeah, I have a lot of weird and wonderful skills that people don't realise. But yeah, I'm a bit of a creep. I just don't let it out straight away. This is why I'm single, isn't it? Possibly. Maybe.
No.
I
I tell you what, if you come to the US and go into the like mid-south, you'd be wifed up pretty fast.
I feel like that's where I need to be. I missed my true birthplace. I should have been brought up in the mid-south and
Arkansas, Louisiana.
Not Louisiana. Don't insult her.
She could hunt gators. Are you kidding?
Oh my God, I would love to do that.
See? Thank you.
Like, what is that program when we were little? We used to watch it, and in America in the swamps, they had them big fans on the back of the thing, and you could ride through the swamps on them. Always wanted to do that.
Was that a program when we were little? What?
I feel like it was definitely on a TV show when we were little. I can't remember what the show was. It was definitely on Only Fools and Horses, but there was an American show. There was also an American show where it featured.
Was it Gentle Ben? I don't know why they would have a bear on like a hovercraft.
It might have been.
I think it might have been.
It might have been. Because he had the bear and then he had a beard. Or was that Grizzly Adams?
Could have been either, honestly.
Is she talking about Red Green, Lindsay?
Maybe.
No, he's Northern.
Yeah, he's Northern. He wouldn't be Southern.
He wouldn't have a fan. I don't know what you call them, but they go through the swamps. Just a fan. For anyone who's
Academy 5 mission to Miami. There's a climactic chase on those airboats.
Oh, funny. All I can think of now is Swamp People.
Oh, Swamp People is such a good show.
I think it's always funny when they like put their arms out into the swamp and then they capture this like prehistoric fish, and they're just like. They're like, yeah, he's biting my arm, but I'm going to eat him. And it's like, what? What's happening? Like, I'm just sitting in Target, not understanding. We're in the same area. I don't understand.
Some people, mountain men, anything like that.
My understanding of Florida law, at least, is you're only allowed to kill a gator if it's a nuisance.
Yeah, I think so. I think
That's
that's
the exact
right.
word. You can kill a nuisance gator, but not a gator.
How do you
that is a
identify they're a
nuisance.
nuisance? Do they have to get
Exactly.
like
Like,
passport?
it keeps nudging you when you're trying to read. It's always
It's your
growing out of its
dog.
shoes
Yeah.
and going, I need some more school shoes, Dad.
I'm assuming
Use-
if it like comes in your backyard and tries to eat your
Yeah.
dog or something, and you're just like,
Mhm.
you're kind of annoying me.
I saw a video recently of a Florida man who had like this little dog that like a gator got it, and he just like punched it really hard in the face and like took his dog out, and like the dog was fine, and then he like released the gator.
That's such a
Like,
Florida
punched
thing
it
to do.
really hard, and then the gator was like, "Damn, okay, here's your dog, God."
You don't have to be rude about it.
Right, like, God, man. Just trying to get some fast food. This is terrible
Imagine
service.
punching a gator in the face. Like,
Like, people punch shark. Like, you're supposed to punch a shark in the face
Mhm.
if they have your arm, like their nose.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
poke them in the eye. Apparently, that does something as well.
I feel like that'd be hard to do because they're like
Reach
you're
around.
already one arm less, right? And then you're trying to.
Unless it's
get
got you on
around.
your middle, and then you can be like, okay, that's fucked. Let's just
And then
go.
you just go like
You
this.
just
You just
go
start winging
in.
at them.
Yeah.
Use a pincher.
There
Yeah.
you go. It's always the eyes in the shark movies, isn't it? It's always the eyes.
Oh, God. The eyes. All right.
Speaking of shows, Gareth, you review TV shows and movies for a living. What is one series that you covered that you wish people would stop watching altogether?
Ooh, no, that is a good question. Stop watching altogether.
Yeah.
Oh, there are so many, but none of them translate to an American audience. That's the problem. The last 3 seasons of Doctor Who, I'd quite like to wipe those from existence, and people just shouldn't watch those. Not because there's a female doctor, because I feel that we should treat women as if they are equal to men. So that's fine, but it's just terrible writing, and you know, a little space frogs and things like that. It's not right.
No Weeping Angel.
It's no Weeping Angel. No, a little frog on a chair speaking telepathically to you isn't the same as a Weeping Angel. My wife hates the Weeping Angels because she can't conceive of the fact that although they can move when you don't look at them, they don't necessarily have to move when you don't look at them. There are lots of times in which the Weeping Angels, people are not looking at them, and some of them stay still, and that's their choice. That's fine. But she gets really irate at that, and I don't know why. So yeah, but she only likes the Matt Smith Doctor Who anyway, so that's fine. Mrs. Brown's Boys, do you get that out there?
Oh, that's awful, that show.
Oh no, I don't. I'm not familiar. Are you?
An Irishman dragged up to playing an old Irish sort of mammy character, and it's essentially just like in this country we've got a great tradition of pantomime, which is essentially theatre at Christmas time, ostensibly for children, but full of the most filthy jokes you will ever come across in your entire life.
So Shrek.
Yeah,
Pretty much, yeah.
It's more drag. What Gareth's getting towards.
More
That's our
drag.
point.
But Mrs. Brown's Boys is like a version of that removes the intelligence that we would grant to children and just goes straight for the lowest common denominator and is appalling. I'm trying to think of something a TV series that I've seen that American audiences would resonate with. You on Netflix.
Lindsay and Madison.
Oh.
Okay, so
Okay.
my
Okay.
wife, again, this is something that my wife watches, and I get that the main character is meant to be kind of evil, but I just wish he wouldn't be so uncharismatically cardboard with it, because he's just he's not unlikable because he's a villain. He's just unlikable because it's not even that he's a dick. He's just not witty and not entertaining. It's like I rewatched the first episode. It's sort of in the background while I was reading comics, but I was really watching it. And he does like this whole inner monologue about a guy and kind of scoffs. It's like, oh, hey, look at this dude. Huh, yeah, whatever. And nothing he says is in the slightest bit humorous, insightful, or makes you go, yeah, he's got a good point. You know, he's not an anti-hero. He's just a dick. So You is another one. I think the only likeable character in all of You is the main woman in the first series. But then she's unlikable because she kind of thinks that the psycho's a hunk. So I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of TV shows I don't get on with.
I don't
Yeah.
like you.
I don't like you either, Claire.
And that's why
Who's
you
on
live
first?
on an island.
All right, so the last question before we get into our cramp words.
Mm-hmm.
So for each of you, I'll start with Claire first.
Okay.
For our American listeners, what's one extremely British thing about yourself that they should know about?
Ooh. Extremely British.
I write all the hard-hitting questions.
Watch out, Barbara Walters.
I'm coming for your job.
Retiring early.
Extremely British. So...
Extremely British, shockingly vile and evil.
Probably my politeness and I apologize for everything, even if I've not done anything wrong. So I'm one of them people who will, if someone bumps into me on a street, I will apologize to them and say, oh, sorry. Or if someone needs to pass me at a doorway, I'm always like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like I've been to the gym tonight and we were putting all the barbells and dumbbells and all this shit away. Every time someone walked towards my trajectory, I apologise. And I'm like, I'm apologising for just existing. And I feel like that's quite a British thing.
It really is, though.
It's a Midwestern thing too.
It's
Yeah.
But instead of fully saying I'm sorry, we go, oh,
Yep.
oh, sorry,
Sorry.
oh, sorry.
there was a study done and of like just basically bumping into people in the street. International study of people bumping into the street, and 80% of British people, if you bump into them on purpose, will apologise for you hitting them. And the Japanese are the only people who apologise more under those circumstances.
Interesting.
I can see that. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very interesting, actually. I don't know if that question is coming to me, but it's
It is.
It's like, yeah, God, I've saved the trouble. Do you want to ask it? I'm ready for the question, Jeremy. But like a friend of the show, we call him Florida Man now because he sent me a text. Why don't I have a nickname? So we had to give him because he's a school friend of mine who weirdly lives in Florida now, about an hour away from my parents, which is weird but great from holiday perspective. But
Right.
he's obviously now married to an American woman, and she said like being married to a British man and meeting his British friends is what makes you British. Is being polite to people you hate and cruel to people you love. And I think that's what we do. That's British. Yeah.
Okay, again, I think that's also Midwestern. Do we not do the same
We
thing?
call it passive aggressive here.
Yeah.
Or no, Minnesota nice.
Yes.
You're really nice to the people you don't like. And the people you love, you're basically like, eat shit and die.
Yep.
Yes.
I love you. Yeah.
That woman, by the way, is the writer Lauren Gibaldi, whose new book is out, and I can't remember what it's called, but you can read it and we can't because it isn't available in this country yet. There you go. What a friend I am, though, for checking your phone.
There you go.
Plug it.
All right, your turn, Gareth. What's the most British thing? Extremely British thing.
Two things. One, I am being incredibly restrained this evening because I usually use the C word in almost every sentence I utter.
Right?
So, I don't want that little E thing next to your podcast, so I'm not doing that. I'll do it on our podcast because fundamentally, as I've said, or as we've said, I will happily ruin John's life, but I feel it necessary to ruin yours. And that is out of genuine politeness rather than an essential hatred. And the second thing is that I probably own upwards of 30 different types of tea.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, the only tea I don't like is the standard English breakfast
Royalty.
tea. She would go everywhere, which is not British of me. But instead, my go-to, like Captain Picard, is Earl Grey hot.
Ew. Earl Grey.
Me? About 75 cups a day.
That's right.
Earl Grey, Lapsang Souchong, green mint tea, whiskey blend I've got, which is quite nice, Russian caravan tea, Queen Anne tea. What? Sorry? Lady Grey, but I've not. It tastes like opal fruits. It's not good.
What's
You
Queen
think I was a
Anne tea?
heathen when I went on? Whenever I go anywhere on holiday, this is also probably quite a British thing. Whenever I go anywhere on a holiday, and I know that I'm going to struggle to get tea, I carry my own tea bags, and I'll go to Starbucks and ask them just for some hot water, and I'll make my own brew.
Fine.
Shane on that.
If we were to jump back, like to the start of this conversation, I think it's before we started recording, and like Gareth's wife packing and his dog's not liking it. If I was thinking Claire's packing to go on holiday, I would say Claire is packing an entire suitcase of baked beans and banana. Well, like the food when I get there.
In answer to your question, Madison, I think that Queen Anne blend is an entirely made-up tea made up by Fortnum and Mason, the famous London proprietor of all sorts of nonsense that isn't Harrods, simply to sort of boost their sales and exclusivity. I've had it a few times, and I literally can't tell the difference between that and normal tea. And as we've established, I drink a lot of tea. So
There we go.
Good to know.
This is the voice of Rillan, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command. We come to warn you of the destiny of your race and your world, so that you may communicate to your fellow beings the course you must take to avoid the disaster which threatens your world. Not really, it's John from Everyone Dies in Sunderland, interrupting the show, just like children in southern England in 1977 had a Looney Tunes cartoon interrupted by a 6-minute broadcast hijack claiming to be the voice of an alien intelligence warning them of imminent apocalypse. And that's what our show is all about, the bizarre and alarming events that traumatised the generation who grew up in the 80s and 90s, and in particular, the crimes which took place down the end of our road. Myself and my friends Gareth and Claire have looked at all sorts of astonishing and bizarre crimes, televised shooting sprees carried out by chicken-throwing men, attempts to commit the perfect murder with the aid of Japanese erotica and stencils, and we've just completed a 3-part series on March 1988 when Britain had an odd couple of weeks of public executions, lynchings and even a gunfight at a funeral. And, if you're a fan of older crimes, we've just done a Halloween special in which we looked at the case of demonic possession and axe murder in 17th century Durham. You can find us on all the podcasting platforms, or come chat to us on Twitter at EveryoneDiesPod, or at Everyone_Dies_ in Sunderland on Instagram, or search for us on Facebook. But remember, the crimes we cover are very rare. Do sleep well. Don't have nightmares.
All right. You guys ready for some slang terms?
Ooh.
Let's do it.
All right. John, you're up first.
Oh, God.
Oh, is it one by one? Oh,
It's
no.
one by one.
Oh, yeah.
I picked
Jeez.
ones for each of you.
My guesses are going to be shocking.
John, your first term is shoot into the brown.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Is it the brief sense of euphoria followed by crushing disappointment when you thought that the label was going to come off the VHS cleanly in one go without leaving any of that sticky residue behind, and then it breaks?
In a sense, yes, because it is to fail.
Oh, well.
Ah.
There we go. That should be in like season 2 of the Squid Game, shouldn't it? Or at least the British
I've not
American
watched
version.
it yet. Don't.
I haven't either, no spoilers.
The squid dies.
Oh.
He shoots into the brown. Or the black, I suppose, if it's ink, you know. So, Claire, your first term is bubble around.
Bubble around. Bubble around. I feel like it's what I do on a daily basis. So my description of it would be to not really have a direction and just sort of aimlessly wander.
Okay.
With your thoughts more than your body.
You're not just like wandering around in the countryside, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bubble around is a verbal attack generally made in the press.
Bubble around? Really?
Mm-hmm.
You'd think it'd sound more aggressive than that. That sounds like something that, I don't know, Ariel would sing on a rock to Sebastian about, like...
10 years in journalism, never heard that term, but...
Yeah. Bubble around.
Bubble around.
Gareth, your first term is gadding the hoof.
Gadding the hoof.
Yes. Or hoof, I guess. Gadding the hoof.
Yeah, but as you might find out, a hoof is something that people go into when they're unhappy in England, so it's not quite the same thing. I'm under a lot of pressure to be funny now, because these two last guys were funny. Can I make something up like John would say? Is it the sense of ennui after an evening's vomiting? I don't know. Gadding the hoof. Well, to gad about means to sort of be a bit of a Jack the Lad and then maybe a player. So is it something to do with having sex with horses?
No.
Seriously, gadding the hoof.
Mm-hmm.
Is it to be severely remonstrated, to be chewed out, or to be a bit like Claire's, but just face to face? No?
Gadding the hoof means to go without shoes.
Oh well, I didn't realise we were being literal.
So, John, your second term is poked up. Like poke.
That's what she said.
Stop giving John all of these. He's a happily married man.
Married.
He's a married man. He's a married man.
Is it the sense of insecurity you get when your kid brings home like the class stuffed toy mascot for the weekend and you've got nothing planned and you think all the parents are going to read the write-up in Zelda the Zebra's diary and think, that family's shit?
Potentially.
Oh, God, is it? We did it once, right? And one of the families literally did a recipe for pesto using only woodland foraged ingredients.
I sense you're still annoyed about this, John.
Yeah. I can't top that. We're just like, we might walk the dog at some point.
Ooh, that's good.
They have their own truffle pig.
Yeah, did I get it right? Does it count?
Poked up means embarrassed.
No, there we go. I'm going to come on every show from now on. I'm going to take you all, any other podcaster out there. It's going to be me. I am the king of the Cramp-Word.
I feel like you're winning just through a sheer bloody-mindedness of refusing not to admit that your description is not what the answer was.
It's embarrassment. I'm really embarrassed that, Braden, Aidan, Jaden, Caden, all their parents had to. They were all, that was literally why my class at nursery, my kid.
All the Aidens.
And the Daenerys, which was very short-sighted in retrospect.
Claire, your second term is make a stuffed bird laugh.
She makes her own stuffed bird.
That's true.
But can she make it laugh?
I mean, if you tickle it in the right place. I mean, that also
That's what she said.
No, I think we're now falling into animal crimes.
If you tickle it in the right place.
Oh. Making this stuff. Hang on. I'm going to go completely off the wall here. So I think it's something to do with a sport. So it's probably like hitting a shuttlecock right in badminton or something ridiculous like that.
Make a stuffed bird laugh means absolutely preposterous.
Ah!
So in a way, you kind of got it. You pulled it. You
Stop
pulled
saying
it.
that. In
you
no
pulled
way
it.
have any of us got any of these.
I'm using that in a staff meeting this week. I'm like, "Make a stuffed bird laugh."
That's part of your annual performance review, wasn't it? Like, Claire, by the end of the year, you've got to make a stuffed bird laugh. We will give you training. I don't need it. I've been doing it since I was a kid.
Gareth, your second term is suggestionize.
Suggestionize.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, can I say I'm feeling very seen by being last in all of these questions. Even when Madison tried to shake it up by asking Claire the question first, I was still last. I feel like I'm surplus to requirements here. Is suggestionize one of those awful Americanisms that you do where you fail to get the correct term, like when you say addicting rather than addictive, or because that really drives me mad. Suggestionize. Does it mean to? I mean, I'm going literal again. Visualize a suggestion.
Kind of.
Oh yeah, I already knew it. I've got it. I've already got it.
You already got it. It's a legal term from 1889 that means to prompt.
Oh, okay. So not at all what I said.
But you suggested it.
Okay, I suggestionized it. And we all thought it. And yeah.
We all went there. All right. Now, before we started recording, John mentioned that he had a bit of a game for us. So I'll let you take it away.
Oh, blimey. So we thought we would have a Cramp-Word of our own, because the part of the England or Britain that we're from is kind of known for having its own vernacular, probably more than in most other areas. It kind of generally gets lumped together as Geordie, which is the accent and dialect spoken in Newcastle. But obviously, Sunderland is the name of our podcast, so technically it would be Mackham if you're from Sunderland. It would be from a place between the two called South Shields. It would be Sandancer from Northumberland, north of us, it would be called Pitmatic. But basically, it all comes under, we've got our own kind of vernacular and phrases, which are kind of unique to the region.
Sorry, the one thing that I found really interesting as somebody who sort of is a bit of a linguist and who moved to Scotland is just the sheer amount of crossover that Scotland, obviously, even this far in the Western Isles, has to a lot of the Northeast. So while some of these John may claim they are words from the Northeast, it's the same as him claiming that a murder in Gibraltar falls under the remit of everyone dies in Sunderland, which is to say, potentially not at all. But
well, Gareth, the reason for that is anyone who's watched the Horrible Histories' excellent Viking song, which is a pastiche of Simon and Garfunkel, you will know that the two areas colonised by the Vikings are North Scotland and North England, and that's why there's a shared vernacular between Western Scotland and North East England, which comes from Viking occupation. In particular, obviously, the Geordie word bairn for child is also Norwegian. If you were to say Anganyam in Norway and northeast England and probably Scotland, people would know. I am returning to my home now, because it's basically the same phrase wherever you go. So that's why. It's
essentially just saying things as if you're drunk, really.
You mean how I talk 20% of the time?
Yeah.
So did you two, looking at my co-hosts, have any? Or shall I just throw them out and you want to translate them?
I've got a couple, but not...
Yeah.
You can start, John.
No, you start.
John.
And Claire's got them as well.
I'll start. Fuck you both. I'll start.
Where's this come from, young lady?
I don't know, but it's coming out. Right. So, you can both attempt to answer what you think it might be. Okay. So, the sentence is, that chav twocked me cats.
That chav twocked me cats.
I thought you said kex. It's a very different phrase.
Kex. That chav twocked me cats. Not me kex. That would also be, yeah, you're right. It's
that'd work as well.
It's more likely to happen to Claire, to be fair.
I'm going to guess it's something along the lines of that Dick stole my purse.
Oh, I was thinking that. So, isn't chav like a douchebag, or like
Yeah.
Like
with
a guy
the
who's
element of kind of snobbishness.
yeah. So like
A douche canoe,
So I
basically.
really should have gone with
That-
Java, which is the more appropriate
that
northeast
douchebag
version.
tried to flirt with me and impress me, and it didn't work.
Sort of. That's probably like chav. Chav. I don't like the phrase. It's not really a northeast one. That
Chav is
kind of
quite
means
southern. We used to say
Yeah.
chava.
It's kind of a like all-purpose scummy person phrase, but I think it kind of became it's like the equivalent of Karen. It was a good shorthand for about 5 minutes, after which it became misogyny. It's the same with chav. Like it was shorthand for something for about 5 minutes, then it became all poor people. And
Yeah.
but it's Chava. Chava is written local thing, which is absolutely fine.
So to translate, it would be that dickhead stole my sweets.
Your sweets. Okay.
Ah.
However, if it was keks, it would be trousers or
Trousers
underpants.
or knickers.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
What's your one, Gareth?
I hope I don't have to use that ever. That phrase. Dickhead stole my pants.
Worst housewarming party ever.
It's like worst funeral ever.
At least they have a truffle pig.
So mine is a bit more from I think probably the smoggy end of things, as we were talking before. I'm from Teesside, so I am a smoggy.
If you go through all of them, right? So Geordie is it means it's either the kind of mining lamp used on the north of the Tyne, or they followed King George during various civil upheavals. That's Newcastle. Mackham, the Sunderland one, which is basically about being a shipbuilding area. So we mack the ships, they tack the ships, and that's how saying make them in a Sunderland accent. We mack them, and they tack them. Smoggy is Gareth's bit, because there is horrific air pollution from their industrial smog.
Got it.
That's
All
why
right.
I'm so short. So
I got the black lung, Daddy.
yeah. I can see him, Mother. He's come for me finally. I will rest now. Anyway, so mine is two that have a very similar meaning. Very similar words have very similar meaning. It's either an oggy or an og up, and it's essentially sort of a verb. You give an oggy or you give an og up.
I feel like an ug up would be like a leg up.
Okay.
Like you kind of give them a benefit, give them a break.
Give it Augie.
I don't know this one either.
Like lift them up, or yeah,
Are you talking metaphorical lift or are you talking physical lift?
physical lift.
Yeah, well done. Yes, an og up is essentially this gesture underneath somebody's foot to
Yeah.
hook them over a wall where they will presumably go and steal something. And an oggy is very much like an og up, but it's a lift on the back of somebody's bike.
Oh, okay.
In my end of the woods, it would be called a croggy or a craggy. Not
There
an
you go.
oggy. There you go.
All right.
Go on then, John.
So you can't have subtitles in real life there,
Yeah.
huh? Not an option.
I've got three.
Well, of course you have. Teacher's pet.
First one is Hoya hammer over here, Henny.
That's a phrase, not a word, by the way.
Okay.
Phrase. Yeah.
Slow it down just a tiny bit. Say it
Hoy
again.
a hammer over here, Henny. Hoy a hammer over here, Henny.
Just like, come over here, honey.
That's not bad, but it's a particular thing that you're being requested to do when you do come over there, which has made it sound ruder than it is.
Oh, yeah, because we've not had enough of that with stick it in the pink and whatever these two filth monsters said earlier.
Tickling them birds.
Yeah.
What are you doing this for? Is this going on YouTube? Because if it is, you need to like blow my fingers.
Oh, let's see.
Is it to come fix something? Wait, a hammer over here?
Yes!
Yeah.
Spot on, yeah. It is. Please, could you pass me the hammer, female of whom I am fond?
All right.
Did you two have any other ones?
I have another one.
Right.
So, the word is stotty.
Stotty?
Stotty. And you could use it in a sentence like this. I'm going to Greg's for a ham and peas pudding stotty.
So like a really greasy spoon, kind of like gross comfort meal.
Like a casserole. Huh?
So,
It's a sandwich, right? Ham and cheese.
stotty. So, stotty is essentially a flat bread that was developed in the ovens in the northeast of England. So I think it was made from the leftovers that they had. They would roll it into a ball, put it on the base of the oven, it would be flat. And a ham and peas pudding is the filling of choice that I would have in my stotty, although I can't eat them anymore because it's the gluten.
And
And
I
it
feel
makes
you.
me sad all the time.
So it's like a sandwich.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bread bun, but it can also be used as a term for a sandwich. So
Okay.
there is a bun, and it's a ham and cheese bun. No.
Okay.
In deference to my Scottish, adopted home, I will very quickly ask you, I guess, stop shoogling, you look glaikit.
Stop staring, you ugly idiot.
I mean, that's unwarranted aggression, Madison. I wasn't even looking at you.
That's just rude. You came out with that super quick. Okay, I'm gonna say stop shouting, you dumb bitch.
Stop.
Okay, I'm aggressive.
showing it to me.
I'm the aggressive one.
I'm allowed one per show.
You were both quite right in your last one, but it's to be gleckit is to look foolish or stupid, and to shoogle is it's fundamentally to shake, but colloquially it also means dance. So it would be something along the lines of stop dancing, you look like an idiot.
Like the Elaine dance. Like stop doing the Elaine.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But those are more predominantly Scottish, so I'm throwing a Scottish bonus in for you there.
Okay.
No extra charge to my usual podcast fee of $1,000. You can Venmo me. Whatever.
Joke's on you, it's US dollars, it's less.
The joke's on you. We've just had Brexit. I'll take anything I can get.
What's your next one, John?
Okay, well, there are two or more I've got. The first one is, I think, the absolute classic. I think we use it quite a lot. So, there's been a hint so far, so I've said one of the words. It's Shy Bairns getting out.
Say it again, but slower.
Shy Bairns getting out.
School's out.
Yeah.
Shy Bairns getting out.
Shy Bairns getting out.
Oh, is it something like sunset? Does it have to do with clock, like time?
It's a phrase, not a specific word.
Phrase.
Like you're finally going out, night on the town.
Are you letting the dog out?
Who?
Out of all of them, I didn't think this one would be the most simplifying.
Shy Bairns getting out.
I got nothing.
It's not like whipping your dick out,
yeah.
is it? It is?
What? Sorry, I missed that, Madison. I was saying...
She said, it's not like whipping your dick out, is it? Shy Ben's coming out.
It's coming out.
Yeah.
That's the other end of the spectrum, I think. Like, there's Shy Ben's getting out over here and whipping your dick out. And then, like, that's literally as far away as you can get. You've gone far too far.
I don't know, John, because if you were on, for example, the dance floor in a club down the tune, and you fancied a bit of an evening with a lady, Shy Ben's getting out. And out it comes.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough, to be fair. I've certainly heard that argument made by worse men than me.
Thanks.
So what does it really mean?
Oh, do you want me or Claire?
Yeah,
Claire, you tell them.
You're just pointing at the periphery.
One of my
I don't know
co-hosts
where I
will-
am on this screen. It means that if you're quiet and you don't ask for it, you probably won't get it. So it's about being confident enough to say, actually, I want that thing. At least that's my understanding of the phrase.
Yeah.
Or how I would say it.
Shy children get nothing, essentially.
Okay.
So getting out means like you're getting what you want.
Get now is get nothing. Now is nothing.
So it's something you would like
Wow.
say to someone, like if you're out to order something and they're not telling you what they want, you'd say that in response because they're not telling you what they want.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes
You're
sense.
not fast, you're last, sort of thing.
Gotcha.
And my last one is War Geordie's lost his penker down the Cundy.
Okay, so this one has a dick, right?
It's not all about dicks.
What is with you and dicks today?
Listen, got spotted pudding. I don't know.
It's actually a folk song, so I think the joke is to be that penker is meant to be penis and Cundy a corresponding organ. No,
Oh.
that's not what War Geordie's lost his penker down the Cundy means.
Does it mean he wasted his money? Somebody's wasted their money?
In a manner of speaking, but no.
Yeah, they've lost their money down the betting shop or whatever, yeah.
Is it?
So like
connection.
So like you've made a poor bet?
Poor decision.
Well, no.
Poor decision.
I'm intrigued now. I'm intrigued by Gareth suggesting that because that implies that Gareth heard it used for that. It would make sense.
No, I haven't. No, I was just trying to connect the dots between Madison's and how it could legitimately be that. I've never heard it.
You
Be
could
fair,
make
John.
a case for saying that if someone had wasted their money, you could say it, but not literally, no.
Okay. Can I play this? Because I've never heard this phrase in my life.
You know, I only heard it the other week as well.
Neither
Go on
have
then.
I.
John, have you just made this up to look like
He
the
just
king of
wanted a
the
dick
Geordies?
joke. It's all.
Like my wife, Constance Premier Ellie Kemper impersonator, is not from North East, she's from Norfolk, and she calls ladybirds, ladybugs, bishy Barnabys, and I'm absolutely convinced she's made that up.
Good evening.
Hi, Sue.
No.
I've just been to see the moon. Hello, everyone.
In Norfolk, it's quite an experience.
They're Bishy Barnabies. It's lovely to see you.
Suze, does Susie know what losing your penker down the Cundy is?
Yeah, she told it to me.
It's a song. Okay. It was.
We're not going to guess it. We're not going to guess
No.
it.
So, War Geordie's Lost His Penker up the Cundy is is a song from the northeast of England, and the first time I actually came across it, sorry to hijack everything, was with a group of 100 children in a school singing it, and I absolutely corpsed because I'm like, that's filth. You can't sing that with like 100 children. So War is our in the northeast. Geordie is the name of the child, George. War Geordie, our George, has lost his penker. A penker is a big marble, so he's playing a game of marbles. And the Cundy is a drain pipe. So our George has lost his people in the drain pipe.
Penker in the Cundy.
And in George's spit game, it's going to be great. Someone's going to say, "Oh, War Geordie's lost his penker down the Cundy" immediately before one of you guys.
As a polite request, can nobody ever say penker down the Cundy again, ever? I would appreciate that, thank you.
Yes. I'm surprised you didn't get that. My friend George has lost his best marble in a drain pipe.
Wow. Well, on that note, I would like to thank John, Claire, and Gareth for joining us today for Can You Crack the Cramp-Word? And before we all go, can you please tell our listeners where they can find you on social media?
I leave that to these two. That's their expertise. I don't know.
Yeah, you can get in touch with us at everyonediesinsunderland@gmail.com, at everyonediespod on Twitter, or Claire Robinson.
Instagram is at everyone_dies_in_Sunderland. And if you find us on Facebook, just search for Everyone Dies in Sunderland and be sure to say hello.
All right. On that note, as always, I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Madison.
And we'll see you next time with another tale
As old as crime.